I've always been drawn to people who could speak with precision. Not loud people, not charismatic performers, but people who could take a complex idea and place it cleanly inside your mind. These people could explain what others only felt. They could negotiate without aggression. They could express disagreement without chaos. They could say one sentence and alter how you saw the situation. When I was younger, I assumed that was only talent, something you were born with. I thought strong communicators had better brains, sharper minds, some invisible advantage I didn't have. I was wrong. What I didn't understand at the time is that communication isn't about sounding intelligent. It's more so about having internal clarity. Most people struggle to communicate because their thinking is disorganized. Their ideas collide instead of lining up. They feel something is true, but they cannot exactly explain why. So they overtalk, they hedge, they ramble, they default to emotion instead of structure. That's not a speaking problem, that's a thinking problem. Clear thinking gives you more of a clear communication. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can't articulate your ideas clearly, you don't fully understand them yet. You might have heard that if someone doesn't understand a subject or a problem or a discipline as much as they think they do, if they cannot explain it in a simple way for others to understand, it's the same thing. This isn't an insult or a direct shot to anybody. It's diagnostic. Because articulation is not something you add at the end. It's something that emerges from repeated contact with your own thoughts. Most people try to communicate before they've built anything internally. They want to sound smart without having done the work of refinement. If you think about it, the more you discover yourself, the more of yourself you will explore internally. The more you do this, the more you practice this every single day, learning, digging deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself every single day. Evidently, the more you will evolve as an individual. That's why personal evolution is so important. And the more you will evolve as a human being, as an individual, the more clarity you will have. And the more clarity that you will have, the more you will be able to eloquently speak your ideas, your thoughts. So, the people you admire, they didn't wake up articulating. They spent years circling the same ideas, approaching them from different angles, testing them in real conversations, refining them through failure. They didn't choose novelty, they chose depth. That's the first thing to understand. You don't need more ideas. You need fewer ideas examined more deeply. Every effective communicator has a small set of core principles they return to again and again. Not because they lack creativity, but because those ideas have proven themselves under pressure. They've been stress tested in conversations, disagreements, negotiations, writing, life, media. When they speak, they're not improvising truth on the spot. They're drawing from a reservoir. Most people never build that reservoir. They consume endlessly books, podcasts, videos, courses, music, but they never slow down long enough to extract what actually matters to them. So when it's time to speak, their mind goes blank. They search for the perfect sentence instead of standing on a solid idea. This is why repetition matters more than originality. The ideas worth keeping are worth repeating. Think about digital marketing. Think about what marketing is. Even think about what sales is. They're not coming up with a whole bunch of different ideas and different things to say. They could just be coming up with 1,000 different ways to say the same exact thing and to market the same exact thing. Different forms, different mediums, different expressions, the same idea with a deeper understanding of it. Because the deeper of an understanding you can come with an idea, the more clarity you will have, and the more you can really articulate that to so many different people in the most simplest way for them to grasp. Musicians repeat melodies, fighters repeat movements, architects repeat principles. Communication is no different. If you want to speak clearly, you must first decide what you believe. Not everything, just a few things. Ideas you're willing to stand behind, ideas you're willing to test publicly, ideas you're willing to refine instead of abandon. This is why writing matters. This is why I talk so much about waking up every day, just writing. When I first get up in the morning, I grab a notebook, grab my pen, I go outside, I walk, I get sun, I write. The first thing I want to do is have sun hit my body. And then I will write. I write all day, every day, pretty much. And why? Because I have all these ideas, all these thoughts circling around my head, and I need something to express all of that, to release all of that, to copy all of that, to explore all of that. I can only do so much by exploring it, by just allowing it in my brain, my mind. I come up with so many different ways of things I want to say, whether it's through a book, a newsletter, a YouTube video, a film. I'm a screenwriter as well. Any of that, or a post, any of that. So many different ways of how I can express, so many different ways and so many different mediums of how I can express this one idea. But me personally, I have an infinite amount of ideas in my mind. But the ones that I really want to express the most, those are the ones that I express in so many different ways through so many different forms of medium. So I'll say this again. If you want to speak clearly, you must first decide what you believe. Not everything of what you believe in, just a few things. Ideas you're willing to stand behind. Ideas you're willing to test publicly. Ideas you're willing to refine instead of abandon. This is why, like I said, writing matters. Not for grammar, not for aesthetics, but because writing forces precision. You can't hide behind tone when you write. You can't gesture your way out of confusion. The sentence either makes sense or it doesn't. Writing exposes gaps in your thinking immediately. That's why people avoid it. They don't want to confront the fact that their thoughts aren't finished yet. But if you write consistently, something interesting does happen. You stop trying to sound impressive. You start trying to be more accurate, more precise. And accuracy is persuasive. Once you've done that internal work, articulation becomes natural. You stop searching for words, you start selecting them. You don't speak to fill silence. You speak to move the conversation. That's a huge difference. This changes everything. How you negotiate, how you disagree, how you lead, how you attract attention, how you persuade without force. Because strong communication isn't dominance, it's direction. The ability to guide attention, to frame reality, to present a path forward others can see clearly. That's why communication compounds. It improves your relationships, your work, your income, your leverage. And in a world saturated with content, the person who could think clearly and speak becomes extremely rare nowadays. Not because others can't learn it, no. But because most won't slow down long enough to do the work. This is why you should embrace the mundane. People want shortcuts. People want scripts. People want templates. People want a blueprint that's already set out for them. People just want rules just to follow. People don't want to create and develop their own blueprint, their own rules, be the leader that they wish they had. But articulation doesn't come from copying sentences. It comes from owning ideas. So if you want to become a stronger communicator, stop asking, how do I sound smarter? What's the most wittiest way I can write or say this phrase or this sentence or have a comeback line? Start asking, what do I actually believe in? What do I actually want to do? What do I actually want to say? Where do I see myself being 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And how can I say that to myself in the most simplest, most specific way possible for it to be as bright and as simple and as clear for myself to understand and grasp, and for me to express that in a very articulate way for others to understand? How can I say this to myself every single day eloquently for myself to understand? Talk to yourself every single day. So you can have a better understanding and a more clear vision for others, for yourself to see, and then for others to eventually see the same vision that you see. The clearer it is for you, eventually the more clearer you'll be able to express that to other people. It's not hard work, but it does require commitment every single day to yourself. You just need to just write to yourself for yourself to get it. I think we understand or we feel how we want things to be, how we want ourselves to be, but we can't really explain it in a way for our own selves to understand. But we feel it. And we feel it deep down inside, but we can't really get there because we haven't done the work of us searching internally within ourselves and writing to ourselves every day and just constantly playing with that idea. How can we say this to ourselves in so many different ways? How can we express this to ourselves in so many different ways? Creating is a form of communication. Building is a form of communication. Media is a form of communication. It just depends on how honest you are with that expression. Those are so many different forms of communication because there's so many different forms of expression. And the more honest we are with ourselves, the more we will be able to be honest with other people without it sounding so combative. Because honest doesn't depend or go based on whether it's disagreeable or non-agreeable. Honesty doesn't care about disagreeable or non-disagree or being agreeable. What honesty cares about is the truth. That's the foundation that you should build yourself upon. And the more honest you are with yourself, the more of a stronger, more powerful communicator you can be to yourself and for others. So where I'm getting at is practice every day communicating to yourself. And the more you do that, the better you will get at that. And the better you will get at communicating to yourself every single day, the better you will get at expressing and articulating, speaking in a very eloquently way to other people, for other people to be able to see clearly with a clear perspective of your vision, of what you're saying, of your expression. Your ideas will be in their mind. That's all I have. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bye.